All right, it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call our board meeting to order. You all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
All right, President March.
Here.
Trustee Maravka. Here. Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee Sluse. Trustee Bowden.
Here.
Trustee Sturba. And Trustee Hudson.
Here. All right, with the trustees' permission, I'd like to move up items A and B from new business so we don't detain our police and public works employees. So first, I'd like to start with item A, motion to approve National Police Week 2022 proclamation. So to recognize National Police Week 2022 and to honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy, where there are more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in the communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Peatone Police Department. Whereas since the first recorded death in 1786, more than 23,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty. Whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. Whereas 619 new names of fallen heroes are being added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring, including 472 officers killed in 2021 and 147 officers killed in previous years. Whereas May 15th is designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their families. Therefore, it be resolved the Village of Peatone will observe May 11th to the 17th, 2022 as National Police Week in the Village of Peatone and publicly salutes the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in communities across the nation. Need a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Been moved by Trustee Hudson, second by Trustee Maravka.
Okay, roll call vote. Trustee Hudson.
Yes.
Trustee Maravka. Yes. Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Bowden.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, officers, I just want to thank you all for coming here tonight. We really appreciate the work that you do. You know, we don't hear a whole lot about the stuff that you do, which is good. That means you're doing your job behind the scenes and everything's going well. So one of the great things about living in a small town like Peatone is the work you guys do, keeping us safe, and the work that the public works guys do to keep the town looking great. So I applaud the work you do, and thanks for coming out tonight. So thank you. Thank you. All right, next up is a motion to approve National Public Works Week. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the Village of Peatone. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the Village of Peatone to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in the respective communities. And whereas the year 2022 marks the 62nd annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, be it now resolved that I, Mayor Peter March, do hereby designate the week May 15th to 21st, 2022 as National Public Works Week. And I need a motion to approve that.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Jones, seconded by Trustee Maravka.
Okay, roll call vote. Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Maravka.
Yes.
Trustee Bowden.
Yes.
And Trustee Hudson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, again, thanks guys for coming out tonight. We appreciate really appreciate all the work you guys do. The village is looking great. Streets are clean, the trees are looking great. Thank you for helping out with the tree planting ceremony that we had a week or so ago. And yeah, keep up the great work. Thank you. All right, moving back, public comments. Any public comments?
No? I'll talk. You guys are starting to get familiar now, so I'm not as nervous. So, Ed Nelson from Peatone. I wanted to ask who works outside of town? I know Nick's not too far away and Julie's not too far.
Who works outside of town? I work outside of town.
You work, okay.
I do too.
The reason I'm asking is it's hard to get here for a lot of people by 6 p.m. I'm in town here, retired, so it's easy for me, but a lot of people, I think nobody shows up because a lot of people say, well, I can't get to the meeting by 6. So I did some looking. There's only been a few people here, me and Andrea, the last few meetings. YouTube had 61 views for the village meeting last 2 weeks ago. How many, Andrea, how many people get the bidet in Peatone?
My largest subscription base is in Peatone. By exact number, I couldn't tell you.
A couple hundred or?
Oh, it's more than that. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what's going on in town. So it's like they're not looking at, but they ask a lot of questions on social media and they're usually wrong or they don't come to the meetings. My suggestion is, I'd like to see if we could, a proposal to have a meeting at 7 p.m. Mantino has theirs at 7, Beecher has theirs at 7. I wonder why Peatone has theirs at 6. Could we change it?
I mean, it
Try to
could be
get more
changed.
people here.
We used to meet at 7. We used to have a committee of the whole every other meeting at 6, and so it was just confusing to come here one meeting at 6 and the next at 7. So, you know, we changed it to 6.
And we didn't have a lot of,
It's not like we had a
People-
ton of people at 7.
at 7 o'clock either.
Yeah,
That's
so-
it, like why can't we get, it's the same people I see around town doing the same things, so many people don't get involved to do anything. I mean,
Right.
the meeting's a half hour, maybe 35 minutes.
You should ask them.
Is there
Ask
any,
them why.
pardon?
Ask them why they don't show up, besides the
Either
time.
I figure either they don't care or they're happy with the way things are going, so. I
And-
like to think they're happy with the way things are going.
I would too. Is it possible at the end of your, in the paper to put like when the next meeting is?
Oh, sure. I can do that.
Okay,
Mhm.
maybe that would help, just, because people are like,
I
well,
got
when's
it.
the meeting?
Right.
I go, it's the second and fourth
Right.
Mondays and nights. What time?
Mhm.
6 p.m.
Yeah.
All right, so, I don't know, take that into consideration or see what we can do to get more people here involved. Can we appoint somebody to share the Facebook, to share the YouTube video from the meeting onto the Facebook community page? I know Nick will sometimes share the agenda, but again, 61 people watched the meeting in the last 2 weeks. If it popped up on the page, maybe more people would glance at it.
I'll check into that and see if that can be
Okay.
shared.
The truck stop. We're gonna get some business. Seems like a good thing. Nobody else is beating our door down to build in Peatone anything. We're not getting a Starbucks. We're not getting a big box store. Some people seem like it's a new thing it's just come up, and I know it's been in the plans since before COVID that we were getting a truck stop. One of the things is, has it been checked on, like with the noise pollution, the diesel fumes affecting the town, or checked with the EPA, anybody that studied that?
I mean, we're going through all the regulations that need to be done for all the, Will County.
I'm just asking,
IDOT
there's a
and
lot
all
of
that.
people that, they're like, we're getting a truck stop. Yeah, it's coming.
Mhm.
The other thing is, I was gonna ask Chief Moore, is he still here?
Yep.
With the truck stop, there's always a possibility of more crime, more people coming there, in here to do whatever. Is Peatone prepared for that, or has addressed that?
We're addressing that, we've talked about in committee meetings, well, we have to wait until we see brick and mortar take place.
Good, okay. And lot lizards. Apparently there's a big problem, they think, with lot lizards at the truck stop, that the truck stop might bring. Do you know of any problems in Moni or
Dr.
Mantino?
Monique, we've already, all the issues with them, the truck stop isn't the problems they get.
Not a lot of lot lizards? Good.
No, not the other things that go on, the old days of truck stops.
I was gonna ask, we're getting a hotel,
That's in the
Moni's got a
plans.
hotel, Mantino's got a hotel. No prostitution, not expecting to be a big problem out here in
Nope.
Peatone? Good. All right. The downtown revitalization, how many minutes do I have?
Well,
Time's up.
just keep going, yeah.
All right. So it's coming, seems like it's gonna be good. We're spending a lot of money, 6 million, something like that.
Over time, yes,
Sure.
and hopefully we'll get grants for a lot of that.
Railroad Street, it needs some fixing up, it's gonna look great. The rear of the buildings along Railroad Street, have any of the business owners committed to cleaning up the back, revitalizing their buildings before our construction starts?
We've talked to a couple of them, I think once we actually go through and build it, I think they'll be a little more receptive to, cleaning things up back there, but I don't, it's tough, I mean, those are working businesses and they need a place to put their dumpsters and park their, cars and
Sure.
things like that, so, that's why we wanna concentrate on, the other side of Second Street. I mean, this is just gonna be a parking lot and, so.
They just wanna make sure that they've been contacted and
Yeah.
know what's going on. And are they gonna do something to make the downtown nicer also?
Let's hope.
That's- We hope,
I
right.
hope so.
And then if we do, or, this happens, if we build it or it's done, then they start work on their buildings, the possibility of them tearing the new stuff up is greater than if they get on board now. It'd be nice if we could get some commitment from those buildings that need it. The one with the alley, that alley is cool if you've ever been through there. At night, the lighting's cool, during the day, it's an alley, but it's very photographic. Those buildings need seem like some major work, and have they been contacted, even just to bring their buildings, I don't know, up to code, or close them off, something?
Mhm. Well, it's a constant struggle to get people to keep their buildings up to code, and, we just hired a code enforcement officer, and, hopefully we'll see some results from that.
When does he start? I know
They
they,
started last week.
all right, good. And then I was gonna go over, have we talked to the other owners on Second Street in regards to doing the upgrades, painting, et cetera, to the front fascias before our construction starts on Second Street, so that again, they're not tearing up new stuff and we go, oh, we've gotta fix that, who's gonna pay for it, me or you, or
Mhm.
hopefully that's done. hopefully the building owners are willing to do that and clean up their facades. They say fascia, I meant facades. The old car lot next to Main Dance, they tore the fence down about, it's been over a year now. It was kind of falling down anyway, and nothing's been done with it.
That's
Is the village
another
pursuing
issue.
them?
Yeah, the code officer, that's on the top of his list.
Good, okay. The blue duplex between Dom and, is that vacant?
Yeah.
Do we know who the owner is? And
Yes,
are
we
they-
do. And we're, same thing, he's on the top of the list as well.
All right,
Yeah,
good,
it's tough.
good. In the Mead Construction Building, he bought a few years ago, and the building looks exactly the same, we've grown up. He's gonna do anything to his building, we're following up with him?
Yeah.
All right. What did I say? The new sidewalk looks great. It's gonna be great to have gull landings hook up with the rest of the town.
I agree.
And then I know they've still got some work to be done, the rain's been
Right.
out there. It's the one concern and suggestion I have is with the safety signage that they may or may be putting up, or they haven't yet. Traffic's moving along there at 45 miles an hour, big trucks. To get them to stop, if you have a pedestrian or bicyclist or somebody going across, I feel is a hazard to everybody. I've been to other places where there's bike trails or sidewalks that cross a county road, and it'll have a signage, a little stop sign on a post that says, pedestrian or bicyclist must stop, that the cross traffic doesn't. Is that already done, or here's a suggestion for you?
Yeah, the engineer has, developed a crosswalk there. Obviously, none of that's in yet. There's gonna be a flashing light there. And I'm not quite sure if there's gonna be a sign that says the pedestrian stop, but I'll check into that.
Okay, good. I've also seen where at each entrance, or crossing little streets to businesses or side streets, they've also had a little post there with a stop sign to remind you, cars are coming in and out, beware, so. I'm sure they probably thought of it, but before it's all done
Sure.
and after it's done.
And people need to remind their children especially to look both ways before crossing the street, because I almost hit adults in parking lots, because they're not looking, they just assume you're gonna stop, so.
Right.
People need to remind everybody to look both ways before crossing the
It's-
street.
You might think the car's gonna stop,
Exactly.
but they don't.
Yep.
I'm running out of stuff, but,
Okay,
Next
Down.
you
time.
gave us a lot.
the Peatone Historical Society in the Ratchy Mill. I go by it every day. It's a little treasure in this town. However, not everybody knows about it. I've heard just recently, people are like, we've got a mill in town? That thing looks cool. So what's our historical society doing, or can they do it? Is anybody on the board here on the historical society? Or do we even have one?
Well, there is a historical society. I would suggest you contact them.
Contact
yeah.
them? Not, all right,
I think
Yeah.
it might be through the library too.
through the library?
Yeah.
All right.
We support them with some money every year that, is in our budget, and I know they've been talking about doing some restoration of the deck around it. So I'm sure you'll hear more about that coming up
That's,
here
I
soon.
didn't think the village had anything to do with them, but I thought I'd at least make it public
Right.
that somebody needs, that group needs to do something. It's a cool little thing sitting there.
It's
Utilize
like
it.
everything else, it's volunteers and, like I said, it's tough to get people to get involved in anything.
Last year before the fest, we had some time to kill, me and my wife. So we went over there with the blower and edger, we edged, pulled some weeds, blew it, made it look decent. Somebody came and fixed the fence, that was good. It's coming up on 8 or 9 months, fence isn't even painted yet, so the Historical Society needs to do something, and like you said, people need to get involved. They do. In this little town, we need anybody we can to do something.
Are you a member of the Historical Society?
I am not, but we went there the one day just to clean it up. So, maybe I should be. Maybe we all could. It's a cool place, and they only use it once a year. They could do a lot of other things there on it more often and get some interest, and maybe somebody would join the Historical Society. What else? The last thing is, we've got the new sewer and water going across underneath 57. We're gonna have a lot of traffic on Willie Pete Road, truck traffic, car traffic when the truck stop comes. Gas prices are high, I don't think it's gonna matter, but we have a lot of bicyclists here in town. Frankfurt, Joliet, they ride as far as Joliet and farther to get out here because of the country roads. I love riding down to Mantino or Grant Park or Solid, wherever, in Simmerton on the country roads. Right now, we don't really have a safe way to get to the west side of 57 unless, you're Wilmington Peatone or Joliet Road. I would like to propose or a suggestion to give us some access on that, over the sewer and water lines. Either a cinder trail or anything, and then something along the truck stop property to get us out to 88th Avenue, or get the bicycles out to 88th Avenue for safety reasons, the main thing. Just
Yeah,
an
I mean,
access
that's all,
to
in
west.
our, we've always designated that corridor as a possible bike path when more development comes out there. So we still have an easement out there, so that's always a possibility. The biggest problem out there is our easement, our land just basically ends at 57. And so to get to the other side of 57, we would have to negotiate with the landowners there, and that could be an issue. I mean, Aqua had to drill underneath I-57 instead of using that underpass because the owners wouldn't grant an easement. So it's definitely something that we kept in mind, and as development comes, we are all putting in more bike paths for sure.
Good, good. Or a bike path. All right. Thanks for your time, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, any other public comment?
I would just like to say on behalf of the Peatone Car Club, we had a successful cruise-in. We had to swap dates because of the rain, obviously, but we still had a very solid turnout. We had over 70 cars.
Great.
And raised $700 for Helping Hands Food Pantry, along with food.
Perfect.
So, that's it.
Thank you, it was a great event. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any items the trustees would like to remove from the consent agenda? We've got our minutes from the May 9th, 2022 meeting on there. Payroll, accounts payable, payroll for the pay period ending 5/14 of $54,669.52. Lost my page here. And accounts payable out of the general fund, $46,820.87. Motor fuel tax fund, $36,8750, and business development district fund, $81.56, for a total of $58,664.37. We also have motion to approve a part-time clerical employee in the administrative department. And a motion, also a motion to approve hiring of summer seasonal help in the Public Works Department. We have a motion to approve special event permit application for a parade for the Peatone American Legion post for Memorial Day. And we also have a motion to approve a special event permit for outdoor seating area in front of Game On Bar for the block party dates of June 18th and 19th.
I'd like to motion to approve it with just a slight change, just because when last meeting, I know didn't have the calendar in front of you, but you said the Memorial Day was gonna be held on Saturday out at the cemetery.
Oh, no. of
And I
course
just
it's
don't
not.
want anybody being confused if they look back at that. So it is May 30th, on
Right.
Memorial Day for the parade.
Correct.
Okay, then I would like to motion.
Second?
Second.
Moved by trustee Maravka, second by trustee Bowden.
All right, roll call vote, trustee Maravka?
Yes.
Trustee Bowden?
Yes.
Trustee Hudson?
Yes.
And trustee Jones?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, moving on to committee reports. Aqua, is anybody here from Aqua?
Yeah,
Was she here?
She was
Oh. Oh, okay, well, we'll come back to her if she comes back in. Administrative report, Amy is on vacation this week. She did include a report in your packet. Any questions on that from the trustees that I could answer possibly? If not, engineering, Troy, I don't know if I told you, he broke his foot, so he's not able to drive for a while, so hopefully, he said he has a checkup this Thursday, so hopefully he'll be able to get out of his boot that he's been wearing. Anyway, the Railroad Street parking lot project is out to bid this week. The bid opening is set for June 7th. And so we will be voting on that on our meeting on June 13th. So they can get, if we approve it at that meeting, hopefully they can get started later in the summer. He said potential slowdowns could be Canadian national flagging availability or any utility conflicts. The MFT resurfacing projects on Penny Lane, Garfield, and Mill. The bid documents and plans were submitted to IDOT for review and approval. And once they receive those back, they will go out to bid. Wilmington Road sidewalk project, still in construction. Sidewalk's been poured. There's grading, restoration, signage, and striping to be done. The Auburn Street Storm Sewer project is still being held up by ComEd not bracing a pole that is required. However, he said he did hear from ComEd today, so hopefully that will get scheduled soon and that project can start. Moving on, police chief, anything to report?
Nothing, I think I'll keep you guys from getting home tomorrow morning.
Okay, you've got,
We got the
Tomorrow
meeting
morning.
with the seniors at 9 o'clock at the coffee house.
right, okay, perfect. Public Works, Bob, anything?
Dr. March, you covered most of my,
Covered your report, huh? Okay.
thanks. Yeah, so back to, ComEd, we finally had to go above and beyond, in the contact list to get something done on Auburn. With the contacts we had, just weren't getting anything done. So I think we're about still 2 weeks out with the bracing, but I think we actually got somewhere today, so.
Good.
As you guys did tonight, you hired a summer help for my department. Mainly he's gonna do a lot of watering and other things within the department, so, but a lot of watering, so. Other than that, that's all I have. You covered the sidewalk, the MFT projects. They're under review, and then Wilmington Road needs to be graded and seeded and be good to go. And signage, take that back to signage, so.
And then Bob and I are working on, since we hired somebody to do some watering, we're working on getting some more planters in the downtown area, and also, Trustee Maravka, you mentioned, at the intersection of Corning and West Street, maybe getting some flowers there. So we're looking what's available, and hopefully we can get a few more flowers in the village.
And trash cans.
Trash cans, yeah.
Banners are going up, some are up now, I kinda got them late today, so they'll be up for Memorial Day. I did switch things up this year a little bit with the baskets. Usually I have Sunrise do them, so this year I decided, Ed Johnson's do them. I think they look amazing.
Great.
They're in the back, if anybody wants to see them, they did an amazing job, so.
Good.
Just want everybody to know that.
Local, good job.
So,
I got one thing about,
sure.
we've got a new tree on Lincoln Street, you go down West Street and you turn onto Lincoln, it's the first one on the north side of the road.
Okay.
After the windstorm the other night, it's kinda,
It moved?
a little bit.
Okay. No problem.
All right,
That's all I got.
thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.
There's no treasurer's report. On to my comments, I just wanted to thank everybody who came out for the tree planting a couple weeks ago. I want to thank Trustee Jones for putting this all together. The Morton Arboretum, for donating 50 really nice trees. And they brought in, I don't know, probably 10 or 15 employees. 18, yeah, to help us plant all those trees. It's a hot, humid day, but we all got it done before noon, and we had a lot of help from Public Works Department. They all commented on how great they were to work with, so it was a great day for the village. And the trees are mostly around the library area over there. Some really nice trees. So great event. Just getting back to the Memorial Day Parade, there was some confusion. The Legion, first we heard they weren't having the parade, and now they are having the parade, so I just, want to make sure everybody's aware that there is a parade. It's going to step off at 10 a.m. The ceremony will be out at the cemetery at 10:30, and yes, it's on the 30th, which is Memorial Day. So it's a great small town event. Encourage everybody to take an hour out of your day to go out to the cemetery and pay your respects. And they also, are they still doing the fish fry? Yeah, so they do a fish fry afterwards, so bring a dish to pass and have lunch. All right, moving on, no old business, new business, we took care of items A and B. Item C, discuss police executive search and selection proposal for police chief by P4 Security Solutions, and we have Mr. Dan McDevitt here to kind of give us a little presentation.
Thank you. To save a little time, I gave you folks my bio. I want you to know I didn't do any of that stuff, but after I read it, I thought, wow, I'd like to meet this guy. Thanks a lot for having me here. I appreciate it. You saw my background. What we would be doing would be developing a search and a selection process for a new chief. I was contacted in April by Amy. I met with her and President March briefly, and they invited me here. This would be a three-person team, and including myself, we've got about 150 years of law enforcement, including chief of police positions at all the ones that are listed. Okay, I was chief in Homewood and Lansing. Bill Kushner was at Berwyn, Lakemore, Des Plaines, and Terry Lemming was in Lockport and now currently is in Beecher. We've done hundreds of these, a lot of promotional processes, operational liability analysis, and a number of things for police departments. And what we do is, we don't come in and give you a cookie cutter thing, here's what kind of chief you need, because somebody that might be a good chief for a large town may not be the right fit for Peatone. So what we try and do is custom design this. We come in, we do a number of interviews. Now, I ran into your chief tonight, and this is the first time we've seen each other in what? Couple of weeks. I think I had brown hair last time you saw me, but it was with Will County, and I was retired from the state police, and my last assignment was out in Joliet. We do interviews, and we would interview you folks, and I'll explain in a second. The police department, all members of the police department, we want everybody to have some say in this. We develop the job description, do the advertising, we publish the process, We screen applicants when they come in. They're asked to send their resumes in by a certain point. We screen those. I'll show you how we do that. We determine semifinalists. We have a questionnaire that goes out to them. Then we determine finalists. Then we have an assessment center. An assessment center is a series of interviews and exercises that are designed to approximate the position that these people are trying to get. Once we do that, we don't say, here's the person to select. We say, here's the top 3 or 4 or whatever you want, how people scored. And you make up the decision, and I'll get to that in a second. The interviews, we do interviews to try and gain the information on what kind of person you need to be a chief here in Peatone. We talk to the mayor, we talk to the village manager, you don't have a manager, but we talk to elected officials, community leaders, personnel. And I think that's important. We typically have like a town hall meeting at the police department. I would meet with the chief ahead of time. We would open it up to all the personnel on the police department so that they can have a say in, here's what you ought to be looking for. Here's what's important here in Peatone, and things like that. And any other community members, community groups you've got, whatever, we've been more than happy to come set up in here one day, and anybody that wants to come in, we did it when we did a search in Kankakee. We opened it up to the community and several groups showed up. Once we do that, we look at the job description you've got, and if it needs to be tweaked, we will recommend the tweaking. We then do advertising. International Association of Chiefs of Police is a great outfit. I've been a member for years, but their advertising doesn't come out real often. It is very expensive, and quite honestly, I don't know that you need to go that far for Peatone. Illinois Chiefs, however, has got a great advertising program. Local chiefs organizations, South Suburban, Will County, a number of different ones will advertise. Illinois Municipal League is good, Mayors and Managers Association, and your own website. Once we do that, we develop a scoring matrix. This is all completely transparent. We look at what you folks need, and we design a scoring matrix to go through the resumes and score those. And typically, we look for things like this. It's on a point system to make it fair for everyone. Education, maybe 1 for a bachelor's, 2 for a master's. Most of the searches we do, a bachelor's is required, a master's is preferred. Organizations, local, state, or national police chief organizations. Command schools, the big ones are the FBI Academy, Northwestern Staff and Command, Southern Police Institute. Supervisory experience at the rank of sergeant. We recommend about 5 years of that. Senior command, a lieutenant, a commander, or above. A lot of police departments have commanders. We take that into account. Labor relations experience, because you need to know, especially in a situation like this, where you don't have a big clerical staff to do the work, you need to be able to deal with the bargaining unit when it comes to contract time. Same thing with fiscal responsibility. You need to be able to handle a budget and express to you people what you need. We give an extra point for varied positions. In other words, you didn't do your whole career in one thing or another. And we think it's a plus, not definite, but a plus, to have served in a similar sized police department. Somebody coming from Chicago PD may not be the best fit for Peatone. Once we do that, we set up a real simple scoring matrix, and there it is. We score the candidates as they go through, and we take typically about the top 10 to 15, and those are the semifinalists. Once we do that, we have a questionnaire for them. We develop the questions based on the interviews and the interactions with you folks. We ask for things like, what's your experience in the budget process, collective bargaining, how do you address morale, especially nowadays as it is with police officers, how to increase citizen cooperation, how to ensure that the makeup of the police department accurately reflects the community. The assessment center, like I said, is a series of interviews and exercises. We develop that from information that we've obtained. Usually we'll run a structured interview, one-on-one exercise, and a management scenario. Structured interview could ask questions like this. Unless you folks feel that something else is important, then we'll focus on that. One-on-one exercise, we will provide the candidates with an issue with an employee, and let's see how they handle it. And there are certain things you need to look for. Management scenario, they'll be given a large-scale situation which could happen here in Peatone. We're not gonna come up with something that would unrealistically never happen here, because that doesn't tell us anything. See how they do on that. We score the assessment center exercises by all three personnel, that are all three of the panelists. We asked candidates additional questions, and we've done these in every place we've been to because I think it's important. Why do you want the position? Well, if you're looking for a place to retire, this is not the place to come. You don't need to come here to retire, just go ahead and retire. What research have you done? How much do you know about Peatone? I would question anybody that would apply for a job that hadn't done some research. What issues would you address? Is there anything in your background that would embarrass the Village of Peatone or the Peatone PD? And we have asked people that. I can think of one in particular. This guy was a finalist, and we asked him that question, and he came up with something that was just mind-boggling. Well, no, you can't have the job. You're kind of a knucklehead, to be honest with you, but. And for internal candidates, because we encourage people internally to apply. And the question is, if you're not selected, how are you going to support whoever is selected? Once we determine the final scores, we usually break it down on a percentage basis, unless you could think of another way for us to do it. And we then present you with the finalists. We normally give you the top 3 or 4. We explain to you how the process went. We are more than happy to develop questions and facilitate an interview for you. We've done that for several communities, and then you make up the decision. You make up your minds who you want. We could also do background investigations on whomever you choose, or the top 2 or whatever. Some quick references, and President March has already got these. And we've got a number of others, but I just put 4 down there. Here's the pledge. I was a cop for a long time. My daughter and her husband are both teachers in Beecher, so I'm real familiar with this community. And by the way, the downtown looks beautiful. I love these little old downtowns. I want to see you get the best person you can. That's all. And I think that's important. It's going to be thorough, it's going to be professionally conducted. We're going to try and give you the best options to make your decisions. And the goal of the thing is, and like I say, I was a cop for a long time, I want the Peatone Police Department, which has always been a good PD, to just continue along those lines. I would be happy to answer any questions, if you have any.
How long does this process take, start to finish?
It typically takes, that's a good question, typically takes about a total of 3 months. And the majority of that is waiting for the advertising. Because when you send us out to these chiefs associations, they only do advertising every so often. So about 3 months. And that's to get through the entire process, start to finish.
What's your recommendation as far as the chief living in town, and if not living in town, being forced to relocate, or how far
You
is
know what?
feasible?
When I was a chief in Homewood, department heads had to live in town. Now, I lived 10 minutes away in Lansing, and would have been happy to move in there. To be honest with you, I don't think it's that important. I really don't. And I was always asked when it came to residency for cops, because Lansing had residency for police officers. And my attitude was, if they show up for work on time, if they do their job, if they don't openly criticize the community, as long as they can get here quickly, I don't really care where they live. But that's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Some towns want the chief to live in town, which is fine, but I'll be honest with you, you're gonna limit your number of applicants dramatically for that. Because typically you look at, let's say you get someone that retires from somewhere else, all right? Bill retired from Will County. I retired from the state police and became a chief. And I would not have wanted to uproot my family to go somewhere. So that's something to consider. But if it's mandatory, then that's what goes on the advertisement. And that's up to you folks.
So what's feasible time-wise?
I'm sorry?
What's feasible requirement for time-wise? 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour?
You know what, most towns do it geographically. You gotta live within 25 miles of the town. I know when they put the thing in for Lansing, when the union finally got them to lift residency, they said 25 miles outside of town. But then the other consideration is, and that's a good question, what about somebody who wants to live in Indiana? Okay, I happen to live in Cherville, Indiana right now, which is, it took me less than an hour to get here. Of course, I'm used to the back roads, but, and I don't drive like a cop anymore, so I don't want you to think. Well, once in a while. Anything else?
You said that you think that we will end up with 3 or 4 candidates on a short list. Is that feasible in today's environment?
You know what? I think it is. And I'll tell you why, and I'm not blowing smoke at you folks, because this is a nice town. It is. It's a very nice town. And I think people would gravitate towards something like this. Now, we did a town which shall remain nameless, but it was in a county just south of Will County. And when we did the search there, they had had a lot of political uproar. And it was a good, big city. It wasn't a little town, it was a big city, and it paid pretty well. And we only got 15 applicants for that. Whereas when we did Elmhurst, we got like 160, because the politics were a little calmer. I would be surprised if we didn't get a dozen people for this town. And I think that'd be pretty good.
A dozen qualified?
The
A
what?
dozen qualified candidates?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a good question, because that's the idea about putting the notice out there. And what you say is, here's the requirements. And if you folks feel that the requirements that I threw up there were adequate, bachelor's degree required, master's preferred, completion of one of the command schools, fiscal experience, boom, 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 boom. And when we get the resume, we score it, and it drives me crazy sometimes when someone will apply for a job that says, here's the requirement, and they don't meet it. Because they're given 2 messages. The one message is, I cannot read and comprehend the language that this was written in. And the other message is, for the panel, you people are so stupid that you're not gonna figure out I'm not qualified. And neither of those are good. So I think you could get a dozen qualified candidates for this job. I'd be surprised if it was less, because it's a nice town.
Historically, where do people come from to come to a town this size? Is it older people wanting to slow down? Is it younger
You know
people
what,
looking
it could
for
be that,
stepping
but then
stones?
you gotta be careful of that too, because, yes, it's not a very large town, and I know you don't have a whole lot of real serious violent crime here, but on the other, this isn't a retirement spot. I mean, you're coming here to do the job, and you have to realize it's a small community. I was talking to Bill before the meeting. I taught for a long time. One of my students got a job in Beecher as the chief a number of years ago, and I'm not gonna use his name. I talked to him about 2 months into it. I said, how's it going? He said, it's not good, I hate it. I said, why? He said, the clerk actually brought me the bank deposit and wanted me to deposit it. Yeah, and somebody else brought some mail and asked me to drop it. I'm thinking, well, what do you think, you're in New York City here? This is part of the job of a small town chief. You're not gonna have a big staff to do work for you. A lot of the stuff you're gonna have to do on your own. And you're either willing to accept that, or you should have looked somewhere else for a job. So, where are people gonna come from? I'd be willing to bet that some people would be retiring from maybe slightly larger departments, or maybe the state police, or Will County, or something like that. And there's a lot of good candidates out there. And I mean, you know, you folks all watch the news, you see people taking shots at cops all the time, literally and figuratively. And for someone to want to be a police chief in any kind of community, I think speaks highly of them.
Do you have any experience or recommendations regarding a part-time chief?
You know what, some towns have done that. Well, your neighbor to the east, Beecher has got a very good friend of mine, and I've known Terry since he was a trooper. And he's a great cop. And that's something to consider. But that's up to you folks. And if that's the case, then you gotta make sure it's spelled out clearly to whoever might apply. But quite honestly, you gotta be real careful. Terry Lemon could do it. Not just anybody could. And, you know, the other thing is, and Bill and I were talking, he says he lives here, he went to high school here, the whole deal. When you're a chief in a community, this is a 24/7 thing. I had a guy knock on my door one Sunday evening at 7:30. Chief, I hate to bother you at home. Thinking, no, it must not bother you at all, or you wouldn't be standing on my porch. Well, somebody broke into my garage and took a case of beer. I said, did you think about calling the police? Well, I didn't want to bother you. Oh, but you can bother me? But you know what? I walked back in the house, my wife looked at me and said, I told you so. I said, fine, but you gotta be willing to accept that, or you shouldn't be here. So, but I love doing it for 10 years, so. Any other questions, folks? All right,
Great.
thank you very much for your time, I appreciate it.
All right. All right, moving on, we have an ordinance to approve a request for fence variation at 824 West Corning Avenue, which would be ordinance 2210. And the petitioner is here.
Yes, sir.
You want to just give us a little brief description of what you'd like to do and why you need the variance?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Steve Schabacher. We moved into a new home at, lived in town for almost 20 years now. We just built a new home on the other side of the tracks there. And we moved in, and it's right on like a little pond. So we have a grandson. So we decided early in the beginning we needed a fence. And then as we got moved in, a couple things kind of struck us. One was part of our HOA is that we had to sign, there was agreement that we would allow people to pass through our land to get to the little pond, because that little pond is community property for, I guess, for anybody that lives in the HOA there. So we're trying to think of, okay, how can we do this fence and still have it look right and still have a little bit of a walkway. So the reason for the variance is to move the one side of the fence away from our neighbor's property, about 7 feet to the corner of our house, and go straight back from there. The other reason is our neighbor's dogs are not exactly friendly, and we don't like the idea of not having something a little more sturdy than the little vinyl fence they have in place between our dogs and our grandson and their dogs. So this was a solution that we thought would look the best. We want to keep it looking nice for everybody, and also be functional.
So, are you proposing to put your fence on your property line, or 7
No.
feet in from your property line?
It's about 7¼ feet in from our property line at the corner of our house.
So is the neighbor's fence on the property line?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I saw today.
Yes.
Because it's weird in the map, the GIS maps, which shows all the property lines. It almost looks like your neighbor's fence is off their property line, but, I mean, I don't know. You might want to get a survey. when-
Yeah.
It lines up with when they surveyed when we first
It
did.
did.
It lines within a couple inches. It's
Okay,
really
good.
really close. Yeah.
All right, so you'd like to leave the 7 foot gap there. This is it's in your HOA that they want to keep access to the pond.
Yeah,
Is that
it was a
right?
really thing. Nobody seems to have a straight answer about it, but there was a provision in there that said that you agree to allow access to the pond from your property line. And and everybody doesn't have a fence. There's actually a couple pre-made sections that are, I believe, community land that allow access to the pond. So it was really gray when I was trying to get to the bottom of it, and I never really did, and didn't really put any more time into it.
And they don't have a problem with you having a different kind of fence, right?
No, it's ours is just gonna be, theirs is like, it's about 4 feet tall. It's like a vinyl with.
Like plastic?
Yeah, I'm doing, it looks like wrought iron, but it's aluminum, powder coated aluminum, so it'll look a little nicer in black. So we want to make sure you can kind of still see the view and whatnot. No, and they're actually the ones that suggested our neighbor because of their dogs. I guess their dogs eat the fence when people come by, so just to keep a little, yeah, I know.
So you're still gonna have that 7-foot section to mow and to maintain?
Yes, it just lines up right along with the side of our house, so just straight back mow, so he'll have the whole section back there, the 7 feet to do, all the way back from the front of our property to the back, so.
Is there any other access to the pond?
There's everybody, I mean, there's other yards, not everybody's fenced, like, so, the one that we're trying to step off from, their fence is on both sides of the property line. The next house over, they actually stepped back about 4 feet from the other, from our neighbor's fence that we're trying to step back from also. So there's a path there also. And then, like I said, there's all kinds of houses without fences, maybe half have it, half don't. The majority seem to have one side at least set back, but they didn't need a variance because they often don't have a neighbor with a fence already, so.
So you're taking your fence off the corners of your house straight south?
On one side, yes.
Okay.
On one side. On the side that has a fence. Our neighbor on the other side does not have a fence, so that one was going all the way to the property line. The one where there is a fence, we're going just right straight from the corner of the house, all the way back to the back corner. We like the idea of it too because it left a nice big gap from the utilities. That's where the utility, what you call them, the pedestals were located, was kind of right in that 7-foot section too. So we kind of thought it was a win-win.
Any other questions?
And you'll mow it?
Oh, of course, yes. We have a service that comes. I don't have time to mow too busy these days, but yeah, it'll be mowed.
All right, this would be ordinance 2210. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by trustee Maravka, second by trustee Bowden.
Okay, roll call vote, trustee Maravka?
Yes.
Trustee Bowden?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
And trustee Hudson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right,
Enjoy your fence.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, I need a motion to close the regular session to go into executive session for discussion of minutes of lawfully closed meetings or a semi-annual review of the minutes.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by trustee Hudson, second by trustee Maravka.
Okay, roll call vote, trustee Hudson?
Yes.
Trustee Maravka?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
And trustee Bowden?
Yes.
All right, there will be no action after this other than the release of some executive session minutes.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm